How's it going, everybody? My name is Michael. I am an author, public speaker, and actor, and I'm sitting here with Saudia Abdullah.
Hello.
Good to meet you, Saudia. Say hi to the people. You gotta say hi to them.
Hello,
There
people.
you
How
go.
are you, people?
There you go. So first of all, I want to shout out the scene here at South Park. Thank you guys so much for allowing us to come and use your place of business. The scene is located in South Park. They have coffee, they got cakes and pies and creams, and they don't have any of that. They have sandwiches though, and the coffee is amazing. Also want to give a huge shout out to Acts on Stage. They've got a show coming up at the Benaroya Hall, August 21st through the 24th. Get your tickets. It's going to be amazing. They're doing The Wiz, the 25th anniversary of the Teen Summer Musical. So anyway, so really what I wanted to do was just kind of get into some discussions about forgiveness. A little while ago, I wrote a book. It's called Journey, the Story of Persevering Through Forgiveness. And I wanted to start to have some conversations around what forgiveness looks like and other people's journey through their forgiveness process, and kind of just start to put myself out there as learning and teaching about forgiveness, continue to learn and teaching about forgiveness. So I invited Saudia Abdullah here, and I wanted her to kind of share her thoughts and her takes on forgiveness. So we'll start by you just introducing yourself, where you're from, who you are, what you do.
Absolutely. And so I am originally from Chicago. I am currently a resident of Federal Way running for mayor.
Hey.
But the reality is, I'm a community advocate. I love people, I love being in community. And so when I met Michael, because he is not Mike, I made sure, and he told me about his book and he said something about forgiving. And I said, who forgives? I don't forgive people. And he said, you should read my book. And I said, fine, I'll read your book. And so now we're here.
Now we're here. So hey, we gotta talk about where in Chicago you're from, because if y'all don't know Sadia, she is diehard Chicago, like rep Chicago for real, for real. So the
Absolutely.
fact that she was just like, yes, I'm from Chicago, that is not how I was introduced to her being from Chicago. So I'm gonna need you to give it to them like you gave it to me the first time.
So I'm from the South Shore. I tell bullets between bullets and beaches. I absolutely love the community I grew up in. It was very rough. We talk about the gang violence and things in Chicago now, but the reality is, in the 90s, when I was, a young girl, the violence, we were talking about 900 murders a year. And so, but I also grew up at Rainbow Beach. And so you can imagine the back and forth of being at a beach and having a good time, but you got to leave before it's too dark because of that.
Yeah.
But I am been in Washington now 13 years, and so this is my home.
Nice. Okay.
All
And
right.
so touch a little bit on running for mayor. I mean, this is your spotlight right now to
Absolutely.
campaign. Like throw a little something in there so they know who to vote for.
So the reality is, because of where I grew up, Harold Washington was the first black mayor of Chicago, only black mayor of Chicago. And he capitalized on a system that was for immigrants to build community programming. And so I was beneficiary of community. I was the beneficiary of someone who cared. It was free to my mother before school and after school, and so I was able to do that. I was able to go into some private schools because they had funding for those things, and it was really what saved my life.
Yeah.
And so when I came to Federal Way and I really just wanted to go to work and come home and enjoy my life, I saw things weren't getting better. I saw we had more unhoused. I saw I've spent almost 30 years in corrections, and so I saw that a third of people being released from King County were coming back to our community, but there were no programming for them. And so I was like, oh, wait, you know how to do this. And so after a bunch of people asked me, and 4 years of saying no, a guy got elected in last November. And I said, okay, wait. It's local government that will save us from the tyranny of the federal government. And so I decided to run for mayor. And
Nice.
so now I'm knee deep in it, and we're about 3 weeks out from ballots being dropped on they'll be dropped July 19th.
Yeah.
Voting is August 5th. And so go vote.
Nice. I'm absolutely voting for you, just in
Absolutely.
case you were wondering. So where can people give money? Because I know there's somebody that's watching right now that's about to write you that 50K check. So where can they give that money to?
Absolutely. So you can go to electsaudia.com, SAUDIA.com.
Nice.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, let's jump into it.
Right.
I'm excited about this. This is my favorite part right here. So, what does forgiveness mean to you?
So, and so this is your authors read your books. Um, Initially, when I thought of forgiveness, right, when you brought this concept up, I'm like, somebody did something to you, and it's a matter of whether or not I will accept your apology or I will give you the grace of being back in my life after you've committed this offense. But the definition, which I know is not a Webster definition, it must be Oxford, because there was another piece to it that it was about an inability or an unwillingness to overcome. And so I don't believe in that part, but the part of me giving you grace for what you've done to offend me, no, I don't really believe in forgiveness
Yeah.
in that, in a personal sense.
Yeah. So the unwillingness to forgive part, you don't believe in that either?
I believe it, for me, it's a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've made the decision. I don't, for me, it's not a lack of ability.
Yeah.
It's, I can do this thing and I'm choosing not to do
Absolutely.
this thing.
So
And that was the piece that I started saying,
explain this to me the way, because we had a conversation about this the other night actually, and you were telling me about the reason why you don't forgive. And I thought, so for me, forgiveness is a staple in my life. I believe that if you can't forgive somebody for the things that they may have or may not have done to you, then how can you expect forgiveness back? Nobody's perfect, right? And I think that hurt people, you know, like I'm a big believer in that. And so that's just my thought. But we were talking the other day and she she broke this down for me in a way that I've not heard before. So tell me why you don't.
so I'm very clear about who I am, what I am, and my boundaries.
Yeah.
Like there are things that I do accept and things that I do not accept. And so if you're a friend of mine and you're in my life and you cross that boundary, you knew better. And so for me, it was intentional. And if you intentionally cross this boundary, I have two choices. I can say, okay, forgive you and bring you back into my life. And then now you cross the boundary again. That doesn't work for me.
Sure.
And so for me, now obviously it's not this, oh, you step on my shoe and I never speak to you again. I'm talking about big fundamental cheating, lying, stealing types of things. I will probably stop talking to you and move you out of my life. But the forgiveness is not something, especially if you knew that it was offensive to me.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't know, then I might be like, listen, nah, you can't. I'm very big on how you talk to me.
Yeah.
You cannot, you can't call me the B word. That's just not a thing for me. Don't do that. And maybe you didn't know that, but once I've told you that and you continue to do it, oh, okay, this is intentional.
Yeah.
And so I choose not to be associated with you anymore.
So for me, it was kind of the same deal, right? Like I went through my life cutting people off. There was no relationship that that wasn't worthy of the chopping block. Is the way I kind of like to put it. If you did something, I was done. That was it. I was moving on. But I kind of got to a point in my life where I realized I was always fighting. I was always in this constant battle with and for me, I think it was more because I had a different approach, right? Like if somebody did something to me, 9 times out of 10, I'll be honest, I don't think they knew that they did something wrong. And then for two, I love relationships. I want to be in relationships. I want to talk to people. I want to make friends. I want to have friends. I want to grow. And, like, so that was hard for me, but I still didn't have the mental capacity, I guess, to kind of just say, hey, I'm not going to, I'm going to try to work through this. I would just, somebody would say or do something, I'll cut them off and that'd be the end of it, And so to me, that's why I think like forgiveness is about making the choice, like you said, to look at somebody and say, hey, you did this wrong. I'm going to forgive you. Now, I don't always believe that they deserve access to your life, though. I don't always believe that. I think reconciliation is different than forgiveness, But this is kind of a cool segue into what I wanted to kind of talk about with your father, because we both have father stories, And so kind of give me an idea about that. Talk a little bit about that.
So, first of all, I will say that I was absolutely born a daddy's girl, right? My father taught me how to ride a bicycle. My father taught me, anything you can imagine. But when I was about 5, and I can actually, hindsight being 20 and a lot of therapy, what I realized when I was about 3, he was carrying me up the stairs. And I remember he licked an ice cream cone. And if you know anything about heroin addicts, they really are into sweets. And I remember licking it after him, and it was just sickeningly sweet. It was the most disgusting thing. And so it was the first time I realized, my dad is different. Like, his lick is disgusting. What I would later go and discover is my father was a raging heroin addict. And while he was not necessarily that abusive to me, he brought a lot of people into my life that were abusive. Fast forward, he got clean. And the interesting thing about my father and getting clean, and this is not what happens to most people. Most people take 7 times to go into treatment before they get clean. His friend got out of prison, came home and said, we don't do drugs anymore. My father, a heroin addict, went to 3 days of detox, and he never did drugs again.
Wow.
And so for me, intellectually, I said, drugs was a choice. So you chose for 15 years to be a horrible father and not be the person I know you can be, because my father also got a master's in economics at the height of his drug addiction. So we're talking about a man with an IQ of 141 who chose, in my eyes, chose to do drugs over raising his daughter.
I just feel like we can't just get past that. Like, IQ of 141
IQ of 141.
at the peak of his heroin addiction.
Got a master's in economics from Loyola University.
Oh my
one
gosh.
of the top universities.
That's crazy.
And so for me, processing that as a 15-year-old, I said, oh, well, surely if you could stop that way, you must have done this on purpose. And at that time, he had another daughter, and he was an excellent father to her. And I just couldn't. It was like, oh, I am done. And he one of the things that I can appreciate about my father, unlike most men who are not in their children's life, he never made excuses. He was like, I'm sorry, and here's what I can do moving forward. And he never allowed me to hold him to those old standards. He did all the right things for my son, and fast forward, he got sick in 2008. He was diagnosed with cancer in January. He died in February, so within 30 days. Long backstory, another podcast about fathers, but I found myself having to be the one to take care of him, even though he was married. And so there was this sense of obligation. I'm like, I don't even like this man, right? You was a horrible, because I was very angry with him. And probably about 3 or 4 days before his death, I realized, okay, you got to make a decision. This man is dying. Like, I hear the doctors. No one else is listening, but the doctors are not saying that they can't operate. They're saying that they're not going to operate, which is different. So, again, my 129 IQ kicks in and says, okay, he's dying. And so you have to make a decision. Here's a man who, yes, for 15 years of your life, he was on drugs. But now for 25 years of your life, he's shown you who he was and who he can be. He's more than made amends. You have to decide, are you going to forgive him? And so for me, I said the words. And he was somewhat lucid, and I was like, all right, Daddy, I forgive you for everything you did. We hugged, we kissed. But in my mind, I was like, I still don't forgive you, Negro. You did what you did, but I'm going to let you die with peace, right? Because I did have this thing, I'm going to let you die in peace, so okay. And then he died. And literally, the one promise he made to me when he got off drugs was, I will never die on drugs. And so the nurse was standing there with the morphine machine, because again, he's dying. And she's hooking it up. He looks at me, he looks at her, and he dies. And I said, well, damn. He said he wasn't going to. So it was one of those, this man kind of kept his word.
Yeah.
Everything he said. And so for the next year, after, again, lots of therapy, lots of depression, lots of trying to self-medicate, but also allowing medication to seep in, I just decided that you got to forgive him or just be depressed. And I was like, I don't enjoy depression.
Yeah.
And so I decided to actually do the work. And I'm talking about 2 years of being in intense therapy with a psychiatrist and a psychologist, of doing the work of forgiving him.
Yeah.
I stand by, I still am an unforgiving person. He did the work to be forgiven. And to me, that does matter. One, I would never forgive a person who never said, I apologize.
Yeah.
Nope, not going to do it.
Yeah.
He, again, was a different case, because he spent 25 years making the case of forgiveness.
In my mind, I think that if there's a way that we can extend more grace, and grace is just, it's unmerited favor, like you're doing something for somebody that they otherwise couldn't do on in their own account. So if there's a way to extend more grace, then I think how much better would the world be? So when you talk about what you're trying to do in Federal Way, right?
Right.
And you talk about the homeless population that's out there and how they're being bussed back in from King County and all those things. There's a level of grace that's there that you have to bestow on people or give them as long as they didn't do nothing to you, right?
So yes and no. So there are people who have been offensive or done things. I'm a very compartmentalized person, and so you might be an associate, right? We met through Mike. Mike has never done anything. I don't think he would do anything. But let's say he did something to offend me, and you had an event at your house. I know Mike is going to be there. I'm still going to come. He just don't exist to me, right? And so it's not that I will still be in community with him. I will still do all those things, but he can never be in my life. He can never be at my events.
Yeah.
And also I want to be very clear that these are my personal takes, right?
Absolutely.
These are people in my personal life.
Yeah.
I've spent, my life in criminal justice, so I don't believe that people are the worst, are the total sum of the worst thing they've ever done in life.
Sure.
I do not believe that. And I do believe that people are allowed grace. So with my father, even though I hadn't forgiven him, he was part of my son's life. He came pick my son up every Sunday. They had a great relationship. I never spoke bad about him in public or in private. That just wasn't a thing for me. And so I believe that I can extend you grace without you being part of my cycle, my circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Okay. No, I get it. So
apples and oranges.
I was gonna say, yeah, come back to that because I think that there's something to be said for that, especially as somebody who's getting into politics, because I think that it's servant leadership politics for me, and so you're getting into politics, you want to be the mayor of Federal Way, and and definitely, God willing, you'll be the mayor of Federal Way, and I just think that there's a level to that where you can compartmentalize, like you said. It's like, hey, this is my personal stuff over here, but in this way here, I'm just going to serve the people regardless. And I think there's something to be said for that,
I think it's sort of the same, you when we talk about politics, right? You have, pro-choice and anti-abortion. What I want to do for my life, I don't know that an abortion would be the right thing, but I don't have the right to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is why those two things are a little bit different. I think that for my little sister, my father was the best father that ever existed on this planet. Right, I remember she was, her and her friends had gone out to Black Beach weekend or something they were doing, and they got lost. This is before GPS. This was even before MapQuest, right? That's how long ago it was. But she calls him, and I'm sitting in the living room, and she's like, Daddy, and I'm lost. And I'm like, why would you call this man? Of all the people in all the world, this unreliable, drug addicted, and I am just like railing because of all the people in the world I would have ever called for anything.
Yeah.
He is not top 10. He's not even on the list. But here it is. That was her first phone call.
Yeah.
And so for me, I understood he was a different person. And so he deserved to be allowed to walk in the world as this different person. He just wasn't a different person for me.
You know what it feels like? It feels like to me that there is absolutely forgiveness in you. It feels like that you extend it. You just do it different.
Okay.
Because
If that makes y'all feel better. Because I can tell you now, there are people that cannot cross my threshold.
Yeah.
I may not even remember why, but you can't cross my threshold. I know
But you just know they can't.
And I'm also like, so I'm not necessarily an easily offended person,
Yeah.
but I am a very right is right and wrong is wrong.
Absolutely.
And not even like the woman who steals the bread for her kids, right? I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about overhearing a conversation. You and I have an ought. Instead of you coming to me, you go to somebody else. I don't want to talk to you no more.
Yeah.
Because you don't respect our friendship enough.
Sure.
But the other part is I will come to say, well, what did I do to make you not feel comfortable? And I'll own like my stuff. If I've been, rude to you when you try to bring me something to the past, if I've shut you down, I'll go, okay, well, that's why he didn't come, and let's have that conversation.
Sure.
But the other part is I also don't seek forgiveness. I did it. I meant to do it. I did it. I did it and I meant to do it.
I did it and I meant to do it. That's gotta be a long line. I did it and I meant to do it.
But again, if I didn't, I'll apologize,
Yeah.
right? I've been in the situation where someone else had upset me and then you came along and I snapped at you. I'll come back and say, hey, I snapped at you earlier. I apologize.
So the same principles apply in reverse. Like there are just certain things that don't fly in certain relationships, and you just stay away from those things.
Absolutely. If I know, you as a toxic man don't like women to raise their voice at you. All right, if we friends, I won't raise my voice. I might still cuss you out, but I'm gonna do it like this. you know. But I understand and respect our friendship enough that I'm gonna give it to you the way you asked for.
Yeah.
But you gonna get it.
So talk to me a little bit about the process to forgiving your dad. Like, talk to me about that. Like, because I think too often I just don't think as humans we don't tell the full story. You know, like everything's so microwavable. You get on social media and it's like, oh, I was this, but now I'm this, and I'm great, and I have all this stuff. You know, so like, talk to me about that process, because I know for me, my journey. The reason why I called this book Journey is because it was literally a journey for me. You know, like it literally took me from, ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys. And I had to walk through all those things to kind of get to the point to where I'm at today. And so just tell me about that. Tell me about what your journey was like.
So, we'll sort of set the scene. The last week of his life, that Wednesday, they decided they were going to do chemo. The nurse immediately said no. His then wife, his third, fourth, I don't know, one of them, wife.
Yeah, say it like that, like his third.
Listen, this is I'll sum up who my father was as a human being. I lived with my father the year before he got married.
Yeah.
So I'm pregnant now. I'm living back in Georgia. He calls me and says, "Hey, I'm getting married." And I said, "Oh, congratulations!" Because I'm thinking, "Oh, you're 55, diabetic. Ooh, I don't have to take care of you when you get old, right?" I'm thinking, "Congratulations, you are getting married." And I said, "Who are you marrying, Brenda?" Because that's what had been at the house. Little girl, she used to drive a red car. "Nah, I ain't marrying her." I said, "Okay." I said, "Oh, who are you marrying, Belinda?" "Oh, no. Then I named like 4 or 5 other women that over the course of the year. And then he named the woman he was marrying. I had never heard of this woman in my life before. 6 months after they get married, he's like, "Oh, I think I made a bad decision." And I'm the parent, because I'm like, "Well, you shouldn't have married somebody you don't know," right? But that is who my father is. So this is now that Wednesday. The nurses decided chemo is not right for him.
Yeah.
His then wife decides that no, he can't die in my house. She had already owned a home, and so his big thing was he didn't want to die in hospice. Mm-hmm. She would not allow that, so now we're in the house that Saturday morning, and it's cold because this is February in Chicago, mm-hmm. And I pull up to the house, and the ambulance is outside, and they have the bed, the stretcher outside. So I immediately start cussing because I'm like, "Wait, it's cold. Y'all put my daddy on the cold stretcher?" I go inside. She has her entire family standing around. There is one of my father's friends helping him put his underwear. My father's literally naked in the living room. So I'm already livid about this day. I travel behind them to the hospital. They literally drop him off in the emergency room, and they leave. So had I not been there, because she didn't come, they asked, "Do you want to ride the ambulance?" And she says, "No, because I want to leave when I'm ready to." So I'm upset because, again, the loyalty of you married this man. This your job. This is the thing that you quite literally are supposed to do. So now,
I mean, he did say he felt like he made a mistake.
But again, she married him.
Yeah.
Sis, this your job. You supposed to be better or worse, sickness and health. Yeah. So this is now Saturday. So all of his friends are coming up to the hospital. That means his friends when he used to get high. Mm. And if you know anything about people who tend to get high and have gotten in recovery, whatever age they started drugs at is kind of where they stay. Mm. So these men are in their 50s, but they dress like they're in their 20s. The guy who actually helped him get off drugs, he's in a full fur coat with a fur hat, with his girlfriend in a full fur coat and a fur hat. It's Chicago, baby. She doesn't know these people, but for me, these are people of my childhood. So I'm also feeling nostalgic. Yeah. She decides at the end, I'm telling the nurses, I don't want anybody else up here with him. Nobody else can come visit him. My sister wants to stay. I want to leave because that's your daddy. Yeah. Go be with your daddy. She waits till my sister leaves and then says, "I'm not staying." What I know enough about hospitals and black folks, you just don't leave black folks in the hospital by themselves. So I end up driving an hour back to my home because I have a 5-year-old son at the time, getting him settled, leaving him with my boyfriend, which, I got issues there. So now I'm nervous about that. Go back to the hospital. I kind of listened to my father's breathing, get labored all night. Jackie Brown, which is one of his favorite movies, is on. So that's like, so I'm really sitting like, oh my God, he's dying. I'm looking around trying to really, for whatever reason, be present because I know that this is going to be a moment. I know this man is dying any minute now. Wake up the next morning about 10 o'clock, the nurse thing happens and he dies. And it's just me and him in there. And I'm looking at him and he ain't looking at me no more. Either up, down, one or the other, but he's not in the room. And so in that moment, I kind of just sit there and I'm like, how damn. The man who wasn't there for me when I was born, I'm there for him when he dies. So now I'm pissed again, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so now I let anybody who want to come see him, I call everybody. I call people in Augusta, Georgia. We in Chicago before I call the wife. The wife finally comes a couple of hours later. We bury him. They bury him in this big Christian funeral because she's a Catholic and my father was Muslim. So I'm irritated again at the funeral. The imam, she did have an imam. He is now talking about his children, and he calls me Saidia and not Saudia. So at that point, I stand up. It's time for me to go. I leave. And for me, it's in that moment I have to decide because now I see, for the lack of a better word, the shit show that is his life.
Yeah.
Right? Because on the one side of the room, he has all of these people who've been in recovery with him. The other side of the room, we have about 2,000 kids because he ended up being a teacher. And I'm sitting in the middle and people are talking about how great he is. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. He didn't take it. And wasn't he a great dad? No. But I can't say that because, so that sends me into a year-long depression. I end up losing my job a few months later. So now I am self-medicating. I am drinking and just smoking weed and enjoying just being around doing nothing. And then I decided like, okay, this is not like a life. You can't raise your son. So I get in therapy. And because, I am who I am, the therapist says, and I say, I can't do anything. She says, well, you made it here today. So the next week I say, I can't do anything but make it here to you. Right? So this is how therapy went for the first.
That does not surprise me at all.
Then they decided that, you should try, try medication, which anybody out there, please, if medication works for you, congratulations. What they don't tell you about is not only does it pull you up from depression, you don't get the highs of excitement anymore either. And so I'm watching a video of my son that I know is funny, and I can't laugh. And I'm like, oh, no. It's one thing to cry all day, but then to never be able to laugh. And so for me, I had to sit and say, okay, what are you sad about? Like, I actually miss my father. My father was funny. He had great jokes. Like, if we could see the Space Needle from here, you'd say, I bet we could walk to the Space Needle. He'd be like, come on, let's go. Now, proximity, this is not a real. But he'd walk until you finally realize, oh, that's a thing. And so I started, every time I cried about him, I had to tell a funny story to myself. And so it became, I could cry as much as I want. I could cry all day long.
Yeah.
But at the end of crying, you got to tell a funny story. And so for me, it was, I had to remember who he was and not what he did to me.
Yes.
And so once I got to remember, like, he had this really bad patch. I just so happened to come of age in that bad patch. But he spent the rest of his life making amends.
Yeah.
He is worthy of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so for me, it became the little things and remembering that you liked that man.
Yeah.
You loved that man.
Yeah.
He did do right by you in the end. And so for me, it was, and again, this was 2 years. I'm telling it to you in 5, but we're talking about 2 years of active, like I did not work. I literally was in therapy every day.
So it's a similar story for me. Like the pieces are placed and they're different. But for me, it was, so how you said every time you thought of something bad, you had to think of something else that was good. He made me laugh. He did this. And it kind of softened your heart towards him. And that's the process that I went through. The difference is I continue to give those things up to God. Now, I'm not by any means telling anybody what they got to do, what you got to believe in, how you got to forgive. If you don't want to forgive, everybody is free to live the way that they want to live. I am by no means telling anybody what to do. But what I will say is that for me, how it worked is almost in the exact same way. Like there were people that did things to me, even my dad. I went through these things with my dad, and I had to get to a point where every time I thought of something bad, I would push that bad thought out of my mind, literally say in my mind and with my mouth, I forgive, and Lord, I'm going to give that up to you. And that, then what happened is it softened my heart. The Bible says that God wants to give us, he wants to exchange our heart of stone into a heart of flesh. Now, I am not God, and so I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know how he does it, but that's a God moment. I'm just going to say that right now.
And the reality is, it it took 25 years because I was like, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think had he and I gone to therapy 20 years ago,
Yeah, it wouldn't have.
we could have rectified.
Yeah.
So the thing about my father is he was willing to try anything. It was me.
Yeah.
It was
You
100%
didn't
not
want it.
him. There were times I lived with my dad. There were times where he, gave money. He was very intentional. I mean, it wasn't until I had my son that he said, listen, I've tried. I did what I was going to do. I'm going to focus on being a good grandfather. So he, unlike most people, most people don't even seek forgiveness. So it's really hard for me to be like, oh, I'll forgive you. Whatever. Like, whatever. Even, you talk about cheating,
Yeah.
right? For me, physical cheating is not necessarily, now, listen, if we date and you cheat on me, we're going to have some problems. But I would be much more upset if you had an emotional connection
Yeah.
with someone.
Yeah.
Because to me, now you're lying.
Yeah.
Right? Now when I came in the room, you was on the phone, you hung up, you lied.
Yeah.
When I asked you what you happy about today, you lied.
Yeah.
Versus if you had this indiscretion at the club, you probably didn't lie about that. Right? And so for me, lying is the bigger offense. And lying to me is unforgivable.
Unforgivable.
Cheating, we can have a couple of conversations about that.
Yeah.
And so for me, it really is, do you know what my thing is?
Yeah.
Right? And because I'm so upfront,
Sure.
if you offend that, that is when it becomes an issue.
Absolutely. So,
And the other thing I will say, it also, when I read your book,
which book is that?
this journey,
I'm gonna need you to put that up towards you. There you go.
you also took your anger out on other people who
I
did
did.
not necessarily deserve it.
I did.
I
You're right.
do not have misplaced anger. When I'm mad at you, I'm mad at you.
Yeah.
And if I'm focused on what you did to me, when they walk in the room, very rarely will I transfer that. There have been times I will be cussing you out and go, hey, how y'all doing today? It's not that I'm fake. I'm not mad at them. I'm actually happy to see the other people.
Yeah.
It's you that is the problem.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is one of the reasons why I don't think it impacts me that way, is because I am very clear about what I am angry about.
Sure.
And I'm also able to articulate it in real time.
Sure.
Very rarely do things happen and then I have to come back and say, hey, what you did hurt my feelings. I'm like, no, hey, stop that. I don't like that. Stop. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And so my expectation is that if you care, you'll stop.
Yeah.
If you don't care, keep going, and
We can move on. And that was a part of it for me, is I didn't do that. I didn't say, hey, that hurt my feelings. I was just done. So it's a different situation. But what I wanted to do in this moment now is kind of give some takeaways. Like what can we share with people that'll either help them to overcome, either in the way that you did it, or the way that I did it, but help them to find that peace in their life, because people go through things, right? And somebody's been hurt by another person for whatever reason. But what are some things that you feel like, hey, I can tell this to my audience or somebody out there, that doesn't know how to overcome that portion of it?
I think confronting doesn't have to be confrontational. So if somebody does something to you, you get to say, hey, what you did was not okay.
Yeah.
You get to have feelings that are not part of the norm, right? You're supposed to open the car door for me, right? That's just the thing. I don't know why I'm
Is everybody in the world? So if somebody's walking by, they just gotta come
absolutely,
grab
yes,
it. Okay.
yes. Anyway, if we're out, even if we're not dating, you're just my homeboy.
Yeah.
That's just a thing for me.
Yeah.
And so, but if we're in relationship and I tell you that, I get to say, hey, this is what I like. And so you get to tell people things, even if it's not a part of the norm. I don't like people yelling at me, because I had a father and parents who yelled and screamed, and that led to fighting. And so for me, when I hear yelling and screaming, I think fighting. And so you get to tell people, hey, and I can do it in love, and it doesn't have to be confrontation. I don't have to yell back and scream. You take time and think about what the real offense was.
Sure.
Were you offended by something because somebody else did that to you and you don't like it? Or did this person actually do something to you? And that's one of the things I have to be very careful about is I'm a good friend. So if somebody upset you, they upset me. And all of a sudden, I don't like this person. I don't even remember why I don't like her. And you back talking to them
I'm the
again. And now
same way.
I'm upset with you because why you talking to them? Didn't they hurt you? And so you also get to say that. But then ultimately, I think you also get to choose who you want in your life.
Yeah.
And you can let people go. Even if they were the same way. I have a friend who met in college. She was the same way our entire friendship. I no longer valued the way she was. And in fact, I felt it was too much. It was closing in. And so I didn't do the right thing and I stopped being friends. I just stopped talking to her, stopped calling her. She has the right to be offended and not forgive the way that I treated a 20-year friendship. And I don't get to be upset about that. So that's the other part of that, is understanding you may intentionally or unintentionally do something to someone and they're not willing to forgive you.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have. That bothers me more, that I'm not forgiven for something. That especially if I know I did it intentionally, and I was like, but you weren't supposed to take it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main thing is that confrontation, confronting someone doesn't have to be confrontation.
Yeah.
But always tell people how you feel.
Absolutely.
Don't hold on to that.
Thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate you. This is a great conversation.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're good.
I'm good. You good?
I'm good.
All right. We're good. Oh, I got to close this out. So definitely check out the website, michaelbling.com. What's your website?
ElectSaudia.com.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys, so much. And we'll hope to see you soon. Okay, bye. Yo, that was dope.
Thank you.
No.